On July 1st, 2025, raw data from the world's fastest interstellar visitor, 3I/Atlas, vanished from public access for 43 hours. Official statements promised nothing unusual, but Michio Kaku warned that in modern astronomy, reassurance often replaces real answers. If sky discoveries are so ordinary, why are timelines erased and headlines orchestrated? The truth about 3I/Atlas begins where the blackout started. At precisely 4 a.m. on July 1st, 2025, the Atlas telescope's public data API in Chile switched from its usual open status to a restricted mode. For the next 43 hours, anyone outside the official project network found themselves locked out. Automated scripts run by independent astronomers returned error messages. Amateurs who had tracked hundreds of comets before 3I/Atlas suddenly faced a blank feed. One observer in Brazil documented the moment. A time-stamped screenshot displaying a red, "Access Denied" banner. The request for raw frames rerouted to a generic public relations inbox. No technical explanation appeared in the API logs, just a note, restricted for review. Throughout July 1st and 2nd, community forums filled with posts from frustrated users. A seasoned amateur from Poland described hours spent refreshing the archive, watching the window for independent verification close in real time. By the time access quietly resumed at 11 p.m. on July 2nd, the most critical observation interval, the period when 3I/Atlas's velocity and trajectory could be independently confirmed, was already lost. The Minor Planet Center's public feed showed only processed orbital elements, with raw images missing from the usual download directories. For many, the blackout was more than a technical hiccup. It erased the chance for outside eyes to verify the object's most unusual features as they unfolded. The official response, when it arrived, offered no clear reason for the restriction, only a reassurance that the data would be released in due course. Within months of the Atlas blackout, similar access restrictions surfaced at other observatories. In March 2023, Comet 2023 Q5, also known as Lemon, triggered a 36-hour interruption in data availability. The observatory's API, normally updated every few minutes, displayed a static maintenance message. Independent researchers attempting to retrieve spectroscopic readings received only pre-packaged summaries, with all raw frames listed as pending review. Online speculation surged as the blackout coincided with reports of unexpected chemical signatures in Lemon's coma. The timing fueled a wave of rumor threads and hastily shared screenshots, each one amplifying the sense of something being withheld. A year later, in September 2024, the Solaris event followed a strikingly familiar pattern. For 18 hours, ground-based feeds labeled as "under review" replaced the usual stream of unfiltered images. This window opened just as social media posts began circulating claims of anomalous emissions, claims that were neither confirmed nor denied in official channels. When the data returned, it matched the language of coordinated press releases, with all anomalies described as routine or inconsequential. Each of these blackouts aligned with spikes in online rumor and institutional press activity. The interruptions, though brief, arrived at the very moments when independent verification mattered most. What began as a single unexplained outage now appeared as a recurring feature, a system where the flow of information could be quietly redirected or delayed, leaving the public to question whose interests shaped what they were allowed to see. 75 headlines, drawn from newsrooms in 16 countries, appeared in less than 16 hours. Each one described 3I/Atlas and its siblings as ordinary, routine, or no threat. The phrasing barely changed from outlet to outlet. Sometimes just a word swapped or a comma moved. Data analysts ran natural language processing on the entire corpus and found a cluster overlap of over 90%. In practical terms, that means most stories use the same sentences, often within minutes of each other. The text matched almost exactly with NASA's July press kit, right down to the reassurance that nothing about these objects is cause for alarm. One analyst flagged a single phrase, routine cosmic visitor, that appeared in 42 separate headlines, from Singapore to Sao Paulo. The timeline showed a synchronized burst. The first wave of stories hit at 7 a.m. UTC, the last by 11 p.m. By then, social feeds were already echoing the same language, with hashtags and memes repeating the official line. The speed and uniformity of the messaging left little room for doubt. The narrative was set before most people even heard the news. For observers tracking the story, the sheer scale of overlap felt less like coincidence and more like a system working exactly as intended. Inside a conference room at a major U.S. observatory, the language of reassurance was not chosen by accident. Minutes from a July 2025 communications meeting, released through a Freedom of Information request, record a tense debate over how to describe 3I/Atlas academic. According to a 2025 survey by the Citizen Astronomer Network, active participation in open comet tracking projects dropped by 27% in the year following the series of blackouts. Forum posts from veteran contributors describe a sense of defeat, with one noting, "If we're only allowed to see what's already been filtered, why bother?" A growing number of independent projects fell silent, their archives frozen mid-discussion. During a rare panel appearance, Michio Kaku stated, "Transparency is not a luxury in science. It's the only way errors are caught before they become facts." The blackout windows, once seen as minor interruptions, had begun to erode the foundation of collaborative discovery. Between July 1st and July 2nd, 2025, public access to raw Atlas telescope data on 3I/Atlas was restricted for 43 hours, a pattern mirrored by two other observatories in 2023 and 2024. Within 16 hours after these blackouts, 75 global headlines used nearly identical language to reassure the public that nothing unusual had been found. Internal agency documents confirm a deliberate choice to label these events as routine, despite ongoing scientific uncertainty. Michio Kaku's documented calls for transparency stand in contrast to the coordinated messaging and data blocks, highlighting growing gaps between institutional control and open inquiry. Yet, key questions remain. What information was withheld, and on what grounds? The archival record, spanning server logs, news archives, and agency memos, shows that the politics of risk management now shape how discovery reaches the public. As of today, the true story and behind I/Atlas remains incomplete, reminding us that when access closes, trust is the first casualty.